Hello, welcome to Forgotten Clubs of Wrexham, where today you can see that I'm in Rhos, where I'll be going through a bit of local pre-war football history. So the first club in Rhos was called Llanachrigog Football Club, and they were formed in October 1876 by the Joneses of Llanachrigog Hall. So in 1877 they entered the first ever Welsh Cup competition, where they knocked out by Druids. They then returned to the competition in 1878, and they had they played Gwrysl Foresters in the first round, and then they drew Bangor in the second round, but Rhos withdrew from the competition before playing Bangor. I assume due to travel distances at the time. So this club were active up until 1884, and they were then replaced by a club called Rhos Olympic. Rhos Olympic only lasted for one season. Played one season in the Denbighshire Cup, which was a sort of additional competition ran in North Wales alongside the Welsh Cup. One thing about the Rhos Football Club in 1876, when they were formed along the similar lines of they see what was going on in Rhos with Druids, and they wanted to sort of emulate some of the success that was going on there. But ultimately it fell short, really. But yeah, they were formed in 1876, and they said at the time we've seen what's been going on in Rhos with the Druids Club formed in 1872, and we want to do something similar. So yeah, the Rhos Football Club, or Llanachrigog Football Club, the first football club in Rhos, from the 1876 until the early 1880s. So in 1889, another club formed in the village by the name of Rhos Llanachrigog. They were formed in the New Inn behind me, and they played their games, it says, on a pitch in the vicinity of the New Inn, but it doesn't actually exactly say where. So they probably used the pub for meetings, for getting changed, and all manner of events. So they played in the Welsh Cup as well, and they were also founding members of the Welsh Senior League, which was the first ever football league in Wales. Now this club played in the FA Cup as well, which is mad to think nowadays, but yeah, there's a club from Rhos played in the FA Cup. So they played in the FA Cup 3 times. The first time they entered the competition, they drew Shrewsbury in the first round, and they were given a walkover when Shrewsbury withdrew from the competition. They then drew Cliftonville from Northern Ireland in the next round, and rather than, they couldn't afford the travel cost to travel to Belfast, so Rhos withdrew from the competition instead. Now, this club had some quite prominent backers at the time. So there was backers from the Soames family, who were local brewers, from the York family, who owned Erddig, from the Williams Wynn family, who were the richest family in Wales at the time, and also from the Dennis family, who had the brickworks in Rhos. But in the end, this club folded in around 1897, sorry, and they were replaced for a single season by a club called Rhos Albion. And Rhos Albion played in the Denbighshire League for a year, and they also played in the Welsh Amateur Cup. So by the mid-1890s, another club had emerged by the name of Seagull Wanderers. They were formed in the Black Lion pub, which is behind me, which they probably used for meetings and to get change as well. It's quite common for clubs to be based in pubs and use them for meetings and changing rooms. They played on a pitch on Street Lass. I'm not entirely sure where, but that's all it gives was a pitch on Street Lass. Now, they didn't exist for long, but they made quite an impression, Rhos Seagull Wanderers. In 1897, they reached the final of the Welsh Amateur Cup. They played a team called Coppenhall from, I think it was Telford, but lost. However, they came back a year later, in 1898, and they reached the final again. This time they played a team from Shrewsbury called Singleton and Coles. I think Singleton and Coles were the works team of a cigarette manufacturer in Shrewsbury. And Rhos Seagull Wanderers won that game. That was the final that was played at Chirk. So they existed for about 5 years, or 4 or 5 years, but in that time they were 2 Welsh Amateur Cup finals and won one of them. And they also played in a competition called the Wirral League as well. So obviously they were looking further afield from the Wrexham area for games. But yeah, they folded in around 1899. So in September 1903, a club by the name of Rhos Rangers were formed. And they formed in the building behind me, which was the Nag's Head Hotel. Upon their formation, they played in blue and white, and they played at a pitch called Cayanion. They played in the Wrexham District League, which they won 4 times. They won a lot of other local cups as well. They didn't win the Amateur Cup like other clubs in the village did, but they did win a lot of local clubs and a lot of local success. in 1910 they applied to join the Combination League, which covered, at the time, it started off as covered in North West of England, but by the time Rhos Rangers applied to join, it covered mainly North Wales. So they were allowed in on the provision that they could find somewhere proper to play. But by 1910 they'd lost the use of Caianion and they moved to a ground called Huxley Field. But at the end of the 1910-11 season, Rhos Rangers folded. Although it is possible that they may have just dropped the Rangers from the name and reformed Rhos. So when Rhos Rangers folded in around 1911, or at the end of the 1910-1911 season, they were replaced in the village by a club just by the name of Rhos. It's possible that Rhos Rangers had changed their name, dropping the Rangers a bit just to become Rhos. So in 1912, Rhos entered the Welsh Amateur Cup, and they reached the final, where they beat Summerhill in the final to win the Welsh Amateur Cup. They also played in the North Wales Alliance League. The North Wales Alliance League covered most of North Wales, right the way down to the coast, right down the coast as far as Carnarvon, Bangor and places like that. So in 1914, obviously all football stopped due to World War I, and after the war, a club by the name of Rhos Athletic emerged. So in the pre-war period, which is what I cover, there was other clubs in the area too that I haven't covered. So for example, there's a club called Ponky North End. Now, by the name, I don't know if there was just a club from the north end of Ponky or they were taking the name from Preston North End. There's also a club called Rhos St John's, and there's also a club called Rhos Church Guild. So Rhos got rich football history, even like the pre-war period, numerous clubs and numerous successes in the Welsh Amateur Cup. But I'm here now at the ground where the modern day Rhos would play, currently in Tier 3 of Welsh domestic football. Yeah, I think have played as high as Tier 2 when it was a Cymru Alliance in the last 10-15 years as well, a couple of seasons in Tier 2 as well. Yeah, so if you're interested, there's the book Forgotten Clubs of Wrexham, which is available on Amazon. Give it a read. Yeah, thank you for watching.